Hi everyone and welcome to Live Your Happy TV. I am extra happy today because I have the honor to interview a dear colleague of mine. She is an amazing artist. She is a singer. She's also a songwriter. And now she is officially an author with this amazing book that she's come out with. It's called A Course in Health and Well-Being, and it's a book based on A Course in Miracles. And I'm just so happy to have her here. She's going to share with us some yummy insights on not only health and well-being, but also, of course, on happiness. So thank you, Cindy, for being here. This is Cindy Renard.
Oh, thank you, Maria.
Awesome.
It's so good, and thank you for having me on this show. And we're good friends, and it's so nice to be able to chat with you about this.
Yeah, to be able to, it's like sitting down on a couch and just having some girl talk on some beautiful things, because it's not just like gossip, you know. It's basically we're here to join in the higher good and to be truly helpful, you know. So your book is from what I've read has a lot to do with the right mind and coming back to the right mind and undoing the ego so that you can have health and well-being and live a peaceful life. Now, this is a huge topic because there are so many people that suffer from chronic illness. There's a lot of people that suffer from pain in the body, but not only body stuff, also emotional pain. Mm-hmm. And you address these issues.
Yes.
And I came up with a couple questions. Actually, we both did come up with a couple of questions, but in your book, you address health and well-being from a Course in Miracles perspective, right? And it says, so my question is, what inspired for you to write a book on this particular topic?
Yeah. Well, in the workshops that I do with Gary, I would say one of the most popular questions that we get in our workshop is, how do I look at this illness or pain differently that I'm experiencing? And it doesn't matter if it's emotional pain or physical, because all pain is really a mental process, not a physical one. But I decided to write a book about this because so many people seem to be suffering unnecessarily, and I wanted to give people a different perspective of how to look at pain in general, whether it's emotional or physical, from a non-dualistic perspective of A Course in Miracles. Because most of the world and most people think in terms of health being when the body is doing well, but that is so limiting. So I wanted to go beyond that into the mind and give people another option, another way of looking at it, anything that goes on with the body, to show people that they have the power to choose how they feel and how they experience a particular body issue or illness, whatever it is, because the true power is in our minds. And there's always another way to look at the world, what's going on with your body, which, as the Course says, the body is an effect, not cause. So mind is cause, body is effect. So I was really inspired to reinforce that idea in people by writing this book and giving them another way. How does a purely non-dualistic thought system look at the world, look at the body? And I wanted to get deeper into that. And remembering, remind people of the power of choice. Again, mind is cause, body, world is effect. Mm-hmm. So as we get in touch with the power in our minds to choose how we're experiencing something and even how we feel, that's true power. And the effect, the body, takes care of itself. We don't have to worry about that at all. Mm-hmm. And so when we get in touch and remember that we're minds and not bodies, I'm first and foremost a decision-making mind.
Wow, and it's so fascinating to me because it becomes very real. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. The pain becomes very real, and I think it's just powerful. It gives a lot of power to the person that's reading the book, because you're basically saying, actually, you have the power to see this differently versus like some external thing has control over you, or your body has control over you.
Right.
And speaking about health, what does health mean according to A Course in Miracles? Let's start there to kind of give people a foundation.
Okay. Yeah. Health according to A Course in Miracles, interestingly enough, has nothing to do with the body.
Oh.
Again, and why? Because the body's a projection coming from the mind. So health is inner peace, according to A Course in Miracles. Health is, and this is a direct quote actually from the Course, health is the relinquishment of all attempts to use the body lovelessly. That's pretty deep, you know. When we're using the body from the ego's purpose, we're using it to attack in some way. And that can take the form of abusing ourselves or others. And that, you know, the Course goes even further to say, only perception can be sick because only perception can be wrong. So the body, most of the world thinks of the body as being the decision maker. You know, we think the body tells us what to feel, you know, and, you know, what to do. And that, what that's doing is really limiting ourselves, you know, and we're saying, hey, the body is going to direct me. The body is the director. And so health is bringing it back into the mind and being in a state of peace, being in a state of joy. You know, when you're in your joy and in your peace, and that's where you're coming from, there's nothing to fear and there's nothing to worry about because
so that's what health is.
That's what health is. Yeah. According to A Course in Miracles. Using the body for a different purpose. And not the ego's purpose, but for the Holy Spirit's purpose. You know, and so again, when we're taking care of the mind and watching how we're thinking about things and what we're choosing at any given moment, how we're interpreting the body and the world, when we use it for the Holy Spirit's purposes, we're using it to be in a state of health. It's all about your attitude as well. So
it's it's so radical because the world would say that health has to do with the body.
That's right.
And nothing to do really with your mind, just like it relates it to you have good health, you know, and it's always, you think of health as a body thing.
Yeah.
So it's like completely radical.
It's very, very radical. And you know, I think
but the Course in Miracles is very radical.
It's a radical thought system. It's not saying the same thing as anything else. That's why I love it, you know, because it's going directly to the root cause of all suffering, and which is the function of guilt in the mind that most people don't know about until they get in touch with it. But it's guilt over the separation from God that is the cause of all form, which includes all illnesses. Now, I just want to point out, though, it doesn't mean we don't take care of the body. You know, the Course is done at the level of the mind, not the world. It's not about behavior. But it doesn't mean we deny, though. If we're feeling pain, you know, if we're feeling illness, it's important to remember that the Course is not saying we don't take care of the body and do what you would normally do that might help relieve you of pain. You know, that's being normal, and so we're not being asked to deny that, and that's a really important distinction to make. So if you have an illness and you need to go to the doctor, you know, and you can do the normal things. If you need to use magic, as the Course talks about, a pill or some kind of therapy, you should do it if it's relieving you and helping you to feel better. You know, if that's your guidance. So the Course is just saying there's another way to look at it, though.
You can experience it differently.
Yes, exactly. And that's really important to point out, because it doesn't mean we're denying.
Yeah, going into discussing you talk about the different purposes of the body. So the purpose that the ego has for the body and the purpose that Holy Spirit has.
Yeah. Right?
And so how can, I want you to expand a little bit on what's the difference between those two.
Yeah.
You know, which we know we would know. One takes you straight to hell, and the other one takes you straight to heaven. But
that's right. Ego, hell, Holy Spirit, heaven.
Yes.
Yeah. Really, I mean, that's actually literally true. Just to for a second to expand on that, you know, hell is being in a state of separation. You know, and what is pain? Pain says really, you know, God is dead, basically, you know, and health is saying, well, God is alive, you know, God is alive in me now, you know, but the purposes, there's two purposes for the body. Only one of them's real, but the ego's purpose for the body is to use the body to attack with. It equates the body with attack, because the body itself is a symbol of attack on God. This is what the Course says. You know, the body is a symptom of guilt. Now, that doesn't sound pretty. You know, people like to spiritualize the body. You know, and again, it doesn't mean we don't take care of it, but the body is only a projection. It's not reality. It's not our identity. But the body, the ego wants to use the body to hide from God's love. It's like a wall of flesh around the mind. It's the body says, well, I'm a body, but I forgot that I have a mind. You know, that's the body's purpose, to hide the fact that we are minds and that we have the power to choose. That's the ego's purpose. It's always to be used to separate from others, you know, from God, you know, ultimately from God. But the Holy Spirit has a whole other way of looking at the body. The Holy Spirit uses our illusions, including the body, for a different purpose. So if we join with the Holy Spirit, the purpose of the body then is to be used as a communication device to allow the thought system of the Holy Spirit to extend through us. The thought system of innocence, that you are really innocent. You're as God created you, nothing less than God. You can't have a will apart from God. That's also an illusion, to think that we could even create a will apart from God. So Holy Spirit says you can use the body for its purposes. Be a tool, a communication tool.
Like what we're doing right now.
Like what we're using it, exactly. Good example. We're using the body right now as a communication device to let its thought system extend through us. So you can reach your brothers and sisters, and remember, it's all about innocence, joining, oneness. You know, and
we're holy.
We are whole. We are holy. We are wholly healed. You know, in the love of God. So anytime we're remembering, it's just a remembering, you know, every day. What am I using my body for? My life for? What is the purpose behind everything?
Yeah. What would you say? I don't know why. This is crazy. You know me, I'm very spontaneous with my questions sometimes. What was coming up for me is I was coming up the word sex. And the reason why is because I feel that, you know, the ego does use the body for sex. And there's even people that have sex addictions, you know?
Sure.
And they go and they watch pornos or whatever. But there's this thing, and I know like Gary in some of his books says that sex is okay, you know? It's okay, you can have it.
It is.
Know? It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, right.
But I also think there's the ego also uses it for a purpose that is also to separate and distract. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, like you said, you know, sex, like any other form, can be an addiction. Where the Course would put it this way, you know, we have misplaced miracle impulses. Where we think that if we think that sex is going to bring us, is really about true joining, that's false. Sex is like another symbol. Yeah, it's not though true joining. It doesn't mean we can't have sex. Enjoy your sex. Enjoy your sex, everybody. It's not about that, again, denying pleasures here. It's only
about.
That
you say that. It's true. Yeah.
No, it really is, and I mean, it's not about, you know. It's so natural.
I think it's just being aware of what you're doing.
It's being aware that if you're using sex as, in other words, saying, well, sex makes me happy, and if I don't have it, I'm going to experience the separation. I'm going to experience pain. That's attachment. That's an unhealthy attachment. That's using it for the ego's purpose. True joining is at the mind level. It has nothing to do with body. It has nothing to do with sex. But sex can be a symbol, though, of joining. A symbol, if it's turned over to the Holy Spirit.
That's beautiful.
For that purpose. And it becomes a holy experience.
How nice is that? Just so people
doesn't mean
at home,
to give it up.
Yeah, give it over to the Holy Spirit.
Just give it over to the Holy Spirit.
Yeah. Give it over to the Holy Spirit. Here's the Holy Spirit. Here's about to have sex. Give it to you.
Yeah. Yeah, you can experience actually so much more pleasure.
Sacred. It would be more sacred.
It's become sacred in that sense of, you can be an experience of being like a sacred experience. And that's beautiful. You know, you're not using it to attack, you know, someone else or again, if something is taken away from your experience, even sex, are you going to lose your peace over it too, though? So then it becomes, you're moving into the realm of attachment, that something outside myself is going to bring me true joy, and nothing outside of ourselves can do that, including sex, not true joy. You know? Yeah. So I think it's just knowing the difference, that's all. Doesn't mean you can't, though, have the normal experience of it. Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, well,
that was a really good question.
Well, the thing is, you're talking, and the whole time I'm thinking something about sex. I'm like, okay, Spirit, I'll say it. Yeah. But it's just coming up for me, because I know that there's a lot of infidelity that goes on in the world, and there's a lot of addiction to porn and things like that. I just feel it's an interesting topic, and why not talk about it?
It is, and I think there's only really one addiction, and again, it can manifest itself, and sex addiction, drug addiction, gambling, shopping addiction. But the real addiction real in quotes, is addiction to our identities as egos, as bodies. Then it
That's
manifests
the true.
itself. Yeah, that's the true
real
addiction. Yeah, and then it just manifests. It takes the form of, I have a sex addiction, I have a drug addiction, I have whatever, it is. But there's, every one of us here has an ego addiction, or else we wouldn't appear to be here. We think that the body is our reality and our identity.
And how can we deal with that addiction of things going on in our world and things going on in our personal lives, and how can we still how can we have health and well-being regardless of that's going on in our experience?
True forgiveness, practicing true forgiveness on a daily basis whenever anything comes up that disturbs your peace. That's the way out, the way through the dream and out of the dream, awakening from the dream. And of course, forgiveness is all over A Course in Miracles. I mean, it's everywhere when you really look closely. It's in so many of the workbook lessons, and Jesus, who's the voice of the Course, brings up forgiveness. I mean, he makes no mistake about it that forgiveness is my only function here. And it's the way out of pain. It's the way out of hell. It's the way out of any form of suffering that your suffering is taking. And I'm happy to go over those steps briefly if you want, but forgiveness is really the way the Course is teaching us.
Yeah, I would actually, because when you say forgiveness, some students of the Course, they understand it, and some of them are like, they're still trying to get it. Yeah. But it's really nice to hear from a teacher how you use forgiveness, or what does that look like for you. Yeah. So if you forgive, what are the steps that you go through in your mind to forgive? Yeah,
I actually do what the Course actually really says to do. I actually go through the steps. It's not just saying, I have a forgiveness opportunity, and just recognizing that, which is important, but to actually do the steps is something different. There's a difference in saying, this is a forgiveness opportunity, but are we really doing it in the moment? That's important to remember. Let me go through that. And the steps are, and what I do is I remember that I'm dreaming. A dream.
You remember your dream.
Step 1, I'm dreaming a dream of separation. That's the cause of my suffering. That's identify the cause. In other words, the Course says is the first step. The cause is I'm looking at the world and thinking of myself with attack thoughts in my mind. The cause is thinking with the ego, making the dream real. So I remember that I'm dreaming.
I'm making something really matter right now.
Yes, I'm making the dream real. That's why I suffer. I'm making it real. It's not about anything outside of me. Is not the cause. It's my own thinking with the ego. That's the cause. So that's number 1.
Okay, and I like that because it's very practical.
Very practical. When you just it's a remembering, and that's what the miracle is. It's a remembering. It's saying I'm doing this unto myself. I'm doing this to myself. There's no other cause. So that's true power. So step 2 is then I forgive myself. I just say this. I forgive myself for my own projected images and myself for dreaming them. I actually say it, forgive myself. And sometimes I just put my hand over my heart because it feels more visceral and real when I do that. And I actually recommend people do that as you say it.
Also makes it
Doesn't it feel more personal, like you really mean it? When people say, but I don't feel I mean it when I'm practicing forgiveness. Try this.
So I would say, I forgive
I forgive myself for my projected images.
I forgive myself for my projected images.
And myself for dreaming them.
And right there, I even feel so good because I feel responsible.
Yes.
I feel like I'm taking responsibilities, and it kind of, I get myself off the hook. It feels like.
Yes. And
it's gentle. It's a very loving act. I feel it's a very loving.
Yeah, doesn't that feel loving even when you just do it? And that's why I highly recommend just do this. And then I just let it go. The third step, so it can be replaced, the Course says, which means when you do those first 2 steps, it's already replaced because there are corrections already in your mind. The Holy Spirit handles that part. So you're not even responsible for the 3rd step of the correction. The Holy Spirit is doing that when you do your part, the first 2 steps. Holy Spirit is taking your forgiveness and applying it in the mind wherever it needs to go. And you can just let go and trust. That's the last step. You just trust. You let go and trust.
There's really nothing to even be said at that point.
No, that's done. You're done.
Oh, wow.
It's simple when you just do the steps. And if there's resistance that comes up, it's really important to not judge yourself for that. Just look at it and notice it. You might want to still just kind of go like this, just notice it and not judge it and say, you know what, this is a process. Understand this is a process involving a huge shift in the mind. And if I'm not ready to fully forgive, don't give up. In other words, it will happen. It's a process that happens over time. Sometimes you might have to do it 1,000 times before it gets any easier. I think important to remember that. It's a practice that when you do it every day, it will get easier and easier if you just have to apply it, to anything that comes up. Doesn't matter what it is on any given day.
And I love that you bring that up, because I feel that, the Course talks about that. Our mind is so disciplined, and that we're so okay with mind wandering, and there's no specific practice. And this is why there's all these lessons, and the book is so long. It's just because Jesus is telling us, listen, you need to work it, and it takes something, and before we wrap it up here, what was coming up for me is, if they go to the doctor and the doctor has just gave them a diagnosis of cancer, I don't know, I think the ego would just have its way with you, really believing that. How can we? That's one scenario, but there's so many scenarios. It could be somebody wakes up in the morning and they have chronic headaches, or they can't function, or they can't even hardly go to work. Is this something that they would do to help the situation, or what are you suggesting, or what does your book suggest?
Number one, and I won't go over the steps again, but number one, I would forgive, because everything is to be used for forgiveness. So, and you can just follow the steps we just talked about. People can. But that would be number one that I would do, and that's what I do if I do experience any kind of body issue or pain. I just remember it's all for forgiveness. That's our only function here. Okay, then I'd let it go. But there are other things, though, that you can practice and apply, of course. One is, being able to practice being in your right mind.
I like that.
Consistently. In other words, be vigilant only for God and His kingdom, the Course says. Be vigilant, and we've been very vigilant for the ego for
what it seems
most
like
of our forever, right? Our eternity.
It's like, how about the opposite of that?
Right. we can be just as vigilant for the Holy Spirit as we have been with the ego. We can exercise, again, coming back, remember, I'm a mind. I'm not a body, and I can exercise my mind's power to choose. And see, Luna agreed. My cat just meowed when I said, she's like, yeah, she's like, yeah. And
love it.
She's giving her approval. And I have an exercise, very brief. There's 3 steps involved also. That when you said you're walking into a doctor's office, the doctor just says you have cancer. Now, a normal reaction, of course, and it's understandable, is it might bring up fear. Of course, it might bring up very, very strong emotions and fear and uncertainty, and that's okay. Allow yourself to look at that fear without judging it. First and foremost, be gentle and loving. You can always come back to the mind and remember the mind work. But there's a visualization that's very powerful. Step 1 would be, remember that all body issues and all pain is a mental process, not a physical one. And if it's a mental process, that means I can change my mind about it. It's remembering to keep your eye on the goal always. Even in those situations, you can still turn to the fact that you're in charge of how you're experiencing an event, no matter what is going on. Now visualize the white light of the Holy Spirit immersing you in this light and absolving you of all guilt, absolving you and healing you in this light, and you're becoming, not only are you surrounded by the light, but you are this powerful light. That's what you are. You're as God created you, regardless of what's going on in the body. And then let go of attachment to a particular outcome, of how this healing is going to manifest. Just trust and turn it over to the Holy Spirit. Let go of the outcome, and then give it up. That's all you need to do. You don't have to even do anything else. Remember, again, the Holy Spirit's purpose for the body, even if you are diagnosed with something, is to remind yourself that you're innocent. First and foremost, we have gotten to the place, all of us, where we don't feel worthy of being well, of being loved, we're not worth the consistent effort it takes to, remember that we we have all power, you know, and so the Course is saying, you know, you are worth the consistent effort it takes to practice looking at yourself another way, you know, and that's one thing I recommend in those kind of situations, along with forgiveness, being gentle and patient, knowing it's a process. You don't have to be perfect in regards to behavior. Everybody gets sick from time to time in different forms. That's how the ego set it up at the very beginning. The ego projected bodies that appear to be both healthy and sick, but the Course is saying they're both untrue. It's not your reality. Even if you have a healthy body, it's not your reality. You're not a body. So it's these kinds of right-minded ideas that people can practice on a consistent basis that really, really does lead to true peace.
And it's so powerful.
That's the goal.
So
Peace.
powerful.
It's very powerful.
Talking about
You know?
peace and happiness.
Yeah.
What does happiness mean to you? What does the Course say about happiness? Because you know this is Live Your Happy TV, and like you said, forgiveness is all over A Course in Miracles.
It's all over the
It's all place, but happiness is also all over the place in the
Yeah,
Course in Miracles.
yeah.
It's amazing how
It is.
Jesus is constantly, I feel, reminding us, listen, you know, your inheritance is happiness, your function is happiness. There's even it says God's will for you is happiness. What's your take on happiness? And
Yeah.
how are you so happy, Cindy? aside from being with Gary.
Yes, my Gary, my baby, as I call him. Yeah. The Course also says forgiveness is the key to happiness.
Forgiveness is the key to happiness.
Forgiveness
That's
is
right.
the key. It must be pretty important. Forgiveness, but it says it's the key to happiness. Honestly, and I'll use a personal example. In my own life, when I truly forgive over a period of many years, as I have been forgiving,
You experience a happiness beyond
experience
measure.
a happy life.
Yeah, it's true.
I honestly, and I really mean, I'm not trying to say it just because the Course says that. I've really been practicing forgiveness, you know, for many years. And I actually can tell that things that used to bother me or upset me or I lose my peace over, they don't anymore in the same way because the guilt is being removed. That was the cause of suffering. So that's what leads to happiness.
Forgiveness.
Forgiveness.
Look about that. How about that?
Reinterpreting what the world is for, what the body's for, saying the body is not, and the world is not supposed to attack me. You know, it's my interpretation of it. That's what the purpose behind it. That I'm giving it is giving the world either power over me or me power over the world. That's a huge, you know, distinction.
My experience has been the same. I feel that
Yeah.
the more in my life I have done this lesson of the lessons I've had, and forgive and forgive even if I didn't want to forgive.
Yeah.
You know, it really takes something. You know, the Course in Miracles says little willingness. I always in my book I say big willingness,
Right,
just because
right.
this world is so cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. You know,
I love it when you say that. Actually, the cuckoo, the ego, the cocoa. Yeah.
I think Jesus is being nice by saying little willingness. I'm like,
Yeah.
hell no, I
I
need
know.
big willingness because I am crazy.
Yeah.
So I just
I know.
feel that,
Very
you
funny.
know, the when I really stepped it up a notch in my life and I had big willingness and I really started to forgive at a whole nother level, what happens is what you're saying, you start to have consistent happiness. It's not so on Monday you feel happy and then on Tuesday you don't feel so good. It's more of a consistency.
Yeah.
Consistent. And I've noticed that I cry a lot less than I used to, you know, and you're in your more joyful space. And
Yeah.
then what bother you doesn't bother you.
That's right.
If you get a letter in the mail with some news or whatever, you're like, oh, it's just a piece of paper, you know. Oh, good. Am I going to give away my power to this, whatever?
Exactly.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
You know.
I love that you brought up willingness, the big willingness.
I say big willingness in my book just because,
Yes.
my God, it took something
It
for
took-
me.
Honestly, I think everyone has to. It does take big willingness. It really does. If we're really being honest with ourselves, I think it does.
It
You know,
takes
and,
something, Cindy, because
yeah.
this world is like, there's so much going on. It's just very, you know, it's just very ego.
Yes.
And I just feel that the big willingness, that word for me meant, that's it. Like, I'm done. Like, I'm done with the suffering. I'm done with the littleness. I'm done. And it really brought me to that big willingness that Spirit, Holy Spirit needs. The Holy Spirit wants us to have big willingness because that's the only way that it's able to come in and correct the mind.
Yes.
But if we're like,
yes.
half-assed with it, like, oh, maybe I want to change, which is mainly what we are in this world. This is what we do, you know. Oh, maybe just a little bit I want to change. Or people say, oh, I really want to change, but not really,
Right.
because you still want to hang on to something,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
a grievance or whatnot. But this has been great, Cindy. Really,
It's been so great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to be so helpful to our viewers, and this is such big topic. This is a juicy topic. We even talked about sex, so I'm gonna get that rewind so you can see. So this is the book, A Course in Health and Well-Being. And where can people get it?
They can get it on Amazon.com, and it's both available in paperback and in Kindle.
Yeah.
And in Kindle.
Yeah, and she's a spitfire over here. She did self-publishing. That takes something. That takes something. So I invite you to check it out. It talks a lot about the things that we went over today, and then some. A lot of other great things are in the book, and I'm sure that it will definitely contribute to your happiness and help you get on the happy train. Choo choo! Choo choo!
Love it.
All right, everyone. Till next time, I'll see you next week here on Live Your Happy TV. Bye bye.
Bye bye.